The RSF itself has termed the order as illegal and vowed to oppose it, as government has now extended the December deadline to Monday, January the 6th. I spoke to Teniola, a trade and economic policy advisor, on this development.
Well, what Sudan is doing is more of a currency exchange where they're replacing old notes with new notes. And it can have varied outcomes depending on the context. So central banks sometimes use this mechanism to stabilize their financial markets or enhance liquidity. But also when there are issues like inflation, which Sudan is facing, or excess money supply. But the way these exchanges are sometimes designed and executed in many African countries means that they're not able to address these issues. And in Sudan, we have the conflict, of course, that adds constraints, including logistical and political issues. So, yeah, it's not going to be enough to boost or protect the country's economy.
Because the country is saying that one of the things they're trying to tackle with this currency swap is counterfeiting. But with the current conflict that's ongoing there, like what you've mentioned, how easy or hard is it going to be?
It's not going to be very easy because, of course, the conflict adds a new dimension where there are areas controlled by the RSF. And, of course, they've made their declarations on whether the currency is going to be permitted in their areas or not. But also there's the fact that the country doesn't have very strong infrastructure, when it comes to banking, and probably not the capacity to carry out these exchanges within the time frame that has been set out. So it's really creating more of a problem rather than a solution for the people of Sudan.
So then is it achievable from where you sit, and what needs to be done for them to achieve this?
I think the first question is even to verify why they are trying to do this and within the time frame that has been set. Of course, there's the intent that they have declared, which is the counterfeiting issue, but it seems like there may be some other political issues under consideration. Defining those properly would then help us understand how it ought to have been designed and executed. The time frame is too short, like we already said. And I think that, extending it a little bit more and probably even communicating better to the people of Sudan about why this is happening and what measures are going to be put in place to allow them change their currencies very easily can ensure success if it is found to be something that is important to do, because we know that Sudanese, as one example, tend to keep a lot of their money in cash because of lack of trust in the banking system. So there's lots of dynamics that will be at play here.
Speaking of it being a political response, we know that the Rapid Support Forces have said that the areas which they control are not going to use this new currency. So what does this then mean?
Yeah, it's going to be very complicated because, again, you don't want to create a state that is further divided, even beyond the divisions that already exist. So we know that there is different governance at the moment with the RSF and then with the states controlling different parts of the country. But when you bring in this economic divide as well, where a particular currency may be valid in one part of the country and then not in other parts of the country, then you're almost setting a basis for, even more division and even more fragmentation within the two areas.
When you think about the common person in Sudan and their usual daily activity of buying or selling, whatever it is, how are they likely to be affected by this currency swap and the deadlines, and now the announcements that they can't use the old notes, they have to use the new notes?
What it does is that sometimes it can even stall economic activity to an extent. And again, I'm drawing a parallel from the Nigeria experience. So of course, all societies are divided into different classes of demographics. So you typically sometimes have the middle class that sometimes are able to deploy cashless payment options. But that is not an option for the majority of the population. They need to use cash. They need to use cash to leave their homes in the morning, to take public transport, to go to their places of work, to go to the market, to buy things on the street. And then it just puts everyone at a stalemate. What happened, I think, in Nigeria's case was that people started using informal payment options, the POS. I'm not sure to what extent that can be deployed in Sudan because, of course, there's infrastructure challenges. But it means that people will have poor access to even food, because if you don't have cash, you can't buy food. Or if you don't have legal tender, you can't buy food. This can affect nutrition in homes. It would affect a lot of things. And there can be a net reduction in economic activity and even economic growth for the period that the deployment goes on. So it's going to make the lives of people in Sudan even worse. I think that's the bottom line of it.
All right, Teniola there speaking to us, and still